So I think Port of Antwerp, and you may be wondering why Port on this stage in a chemical conference. We are also, the topic is transforming India into a global manufacturing hub. We at Antwerp have a big chemical cluster which is built over time, and this is the largest chemical cluster in Europe, second largest after Houston, which is quite a large number of companies that you will come to know in the next few minutes. I'll cover that in few themes. One is the global port, the past and the present, what we are currently. Some of the success factors, what made us this kind of an integrated cluster, partnerships for a sustainable future, and the digital transition that we've had. And before that, I'll just play a small video to give you an overview of what the port is all about. I think the last bit covered the list of companies that are actually present in the port. So you could see the big number of list that is there. What is Port of Antwerp? Till last couple of years, we were just Port of Antwerp. We used to be called Port of Antwerp, which is a port on the hinterland of Belgium. But 2022, we merged with the port of Zeebrugge on the coast of Belgium. Now, why we merged, there is a story, there's a green, the real reason I'll come back to later. What you see on the screen is two different locations, but one single port. And the joint entity is now called as Port of Antwerp-Bruges. So this is what I was talking about, the 5 big clusters, integrated chemical clusters in the world, and Antwerp ranks number 2 in the world after Houston. There's some stats on this. The key ones are obviously we are the number 1 port in terms of export. We do, the land bank is quite large, so if you just understand the land of the port area is around 14,000 hectares of land, which is approximately 140 square kilometers, which is around 20,000 football fields in one. We also do 15% of Europe's gas. That's the port of Zeebrugge, that's platform, out of which LNG is the major factor. And that is one of the reasons why we actually merged with the port of Zeebrugge, to bring that know-how and technology and for the green molecules back into Port of Antwerp and use it for the industry as feedstock. Some again stats I'll just skip because I have limited time here. Coming back to the success factors, and there are many success factors, but I'll just list down a few of them. First is the vision and the strategic focus. And what it means is the first imports of oil would have dated back to 1861, but the major development actually took place from the 1950s till the current date, what you're talking about. The directors of that particular time had a vision to bring in chemistry, and they had a vision for the future of the chemistry. So they bought the German companies to set up operations in the port of Antwerp, which is companies like BASF and all having facilities. At that time, they actually gave them land to set up, which is something we don't sell right now. It's more about concessions that is given right now. But if you see, that is the vision that they had that time, and that the industry groomed after that. But currently also, when we talk about the vision, we have a land bank which was around 100 hectares of land, which is was a flat factory, General Motors plant, which is now completely flattened out. We could have given it for any other warehousing or terminal operations, but we decided to hold in for companies to set up in circular economy. And to be proud to say that in the last 3 years, we have 5 concessionaries that have signed in, out of which one is a US company called Plug Power, which is setting up a green hydrogen plant in the port area. A major role, if you look at it, we are a landlord port, so we don't do much of operations ourselves. Some of the operations are related to regulations and, a landlord giving concessions. But a major operation is actually of a community builder, which means that we actually bring the industry together, sit down with the industry, decide what's the roadmap of the industry, and on that basis, we develop infrastructure or lay down any other requirements that the industry needs. And that is where industry, and this is not we do with only with the industry, we also look at working with partners across the globe to see what is the best for the port and where it can benefit. Some of the unique, this is a unique ecosystem when I say this, because it's not only cargo handling, which is most of the port operations that you see. We also have companies who do value-added logistics, which could be customizing of your product. A lot of operations like blending, compounding, toll production can actually happen in the port area. And the industry have already mentioned that. Some slides on this. Now, the second success factor is the integrated cluster. Now, if you see, I don't know whether you can read the ones, the chemicals that are there, but what you see in the pink area is the molecules that are present in the port area. And we do not invite things which are very much into port area. When looking at investments, we look at what is the missing link and what can strengthen the cluster. So if you look at the top, it's basically the raw materials to the finished products. A lot of the times you have companies producing finished products that could act as raw materials to the other industry. And that is where the whole integration has been formed over years. Some of the companies which have invested into the port, but out of this you see the major investments have been BASF, INEOS, 3 billion euros. Some of the really interesting factors here is not only the companies that are investing, there's a lot of logistics companies that are also putting up infrastructure. You see oil tanking, Sea Invest putting up tank storage capacities to really strengthen this whole cluster that is going on. The other success factor is connectivity. Now, if you look at that circle, that is around 500 kilometers of radius, which is around 60% of consumer market. That's what we cater from a port right now. All modes of transportation available in the port: rail, inland navigation, short sea. 49% of the distribution actually happens through inland navigation. That is a big number in terms of sustainable transportation that we do. Rail is around 7.5, but we tend to double it by 2030, which will be around 15%. So if you look at the comparative, it's almost 65% distribution right now with only 2 modes of transportation, which is quite sustainable. Pipelines, we bought a company which helps us lay pipeline. We have 1,000 kilometers of pipeline to transport chemicals in the port area itself. This is the pipeline network I was talking about. And we almost take around 48 to 50 products that really go through these pipelines. And we're not only talking about setting up infrastructure for the current, but you're also looking at the green molecules. So a lot of companies are actually setting up storage capacities, terminal capacities to invite green molecules and store them, but also an open access pipeline for hydrogen in future. Innovative spirit, with innovative spirit, what I mean is we're not only looking at inviting key majors, but we also look at inviting startups. The 2 examples I like to take is Blue App and Blue Chem. These are incubators which actually help a lot of startups do a lot of innovation around chemistry. But what is interesting here is not only that the startups work here, we also have the majors taking a space in these incubators and actually having a watch what is happening with these new developments. So it actually brings in a lot of mutual respect and also nurturing between the 2 majors and the startups that is coming up. Partnerships, this is very interesting because we believe that we cannot do everything ourselves, and because of this uncertain world, the VUCA world that we call it, not everything is possible, so we rely on partnerships. Some of the partnerships, if you see Antwerp Seal, which is a carbon capture project and storage project, we've done it with 8 partners, and the major ambition is actually, being a chemical cluster, we also one of the biggest emitters of carbon dioxide, and we emitted around 18 million tons of carbon dioxide last year. And we tend to half it by 2030. And that's the reason we're putting up all this support mechanism with the companies. And happy to say Air Liquide and BASF have got a funding from EU around to set up the infrastructure for capturing this carbon dioxide at the port area. The second one is power to methanol, again with partnerships. This is a hydrogen import coalition, and we all talk about green hydrogen right now. Port of Antwerp, Bruges also tends to become the gateway for green energy into Europe, and we have companies who are now joining hands together to put up that infrastructure. But we did a demo pilot project with the companies, the DMA, NG, Fluxus, to see if that is a feasible option, and we found that very feasible. Hence, we actually rely on helping all the other countries. So if you see the map, India is still missing, but if you see Oman, Egypt, that's where we're looking at right now, but India could be another possibility for us to import green hydrogen for the Europe market. The last one is digital transition. Now, digital transition, we have different modes. So our first one is obviously the 5G network that we've set up in the port area, which is a private network completely. We have our daughter companies, which is the Nextport and the Seaport, which are basically data sharing platforms. And I'll just give you an example of Nextport. The digital twin is very interesting because this is something, I think the previous presentation, somebody spoke about digital twin. We actually have a digital twin, which is a real-time mapping of the port area, where everything is mapped in a remote location and we could actually track what's happening in the port. Being such a large port, we use sensors, we use cameras, we use drones. Currently, we have 18 drone flights that take every day to capture what is happening in the port area. And we could take samples and immediately act on if there are incidents happening. Nextport is our daughter company, which we set up in 2016, and quickly run through this. It is basically a data sharing platform, which is an open data sharing platform. They do not do any application, but prepare the platform where applications can be built. Now, this was a challenge because data sharing is a complicated issue. People do not like to share data. So the main idea was to first get people together to share data, and we feel that is a very important step once you talk about the whole transition in future. We started off with a small document, which is a cleaning document, which is basically a non-commercial document, which is required for once you empty the tank, you need a cleaning document to refill the tank. And companies did accept that. So right now we have 60 companies who are actually using this data sharing platform to use the cleaning document, which is a non-commercial, but the main challenge was actually making them to get this sharing done, Just the last, and what value it has added. So if you look at this, I'm not going to read that, but if you look at, we feel that towards the march towards 1 trillion economy for India, in the chemical sector, I think data exchange is going to be very important. And that's it. Thank you for me.